Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa Vajrayacharya Ashtotar Srimad His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parujaka Ashtotar Srimad His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Isopanisad Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. I think I gave you the wrong. You start using the new one now? Yeah, the problem is it's fine. I have to bring another one over. It has a little blunter tip. I'm sorry. Anyway, I think you can read it for now. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 27th day of January 2020 in SanDiego, reading from the Sri Isopanisad, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are now studying Mantra 12. Andam tamak pravashanti ye sambhutam upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo Yo sambhutyam rataha. Yo Andantamak pravashanti. Ye sambhutam upasate. Tato bhuya ivate tamo. Yaho sambhutyam rataha. Andantamak pravashanti ye sambhutam upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yausam bhutyam rataha andhang tamak pravashanti yesam bhutim upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yausam bhutyam rataha andhang tamak pravashanti yesam bhutim upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yosam bhutyam rataha andhang tamak pravashanti yesam bhutim upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yosam bhutyam rataha andhang tamak pravashanti yesam bhutim upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yahusam bhutyam rataha andhang tamak pravashanti yesam bhutim upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yahusam bhutyam rataha andham, ignorance, tamaha, darkness, pravashanti, enter into, ye, those who, asambhutim, demigods, upasate, worship, tataha, than that, bhuyaha, still more, eva, like that. Te, those. Tamaha, darkness. Ye, who. U, also. Sambhutyam, in the absolute. Rataha, engaged. Translation. Those who are engaged in the worship of demigods enter into the darkest region of ignorance, and still more so do the worshippers of the impersonal absolute. Purport. The Sanskrit word asambhuti refers to those who have no independent existence. Sambhuti is the absolute personality of Godhead, who is absolutely independent of everything. In the Bhagavad Gita 10.2, the absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, states, Name Badu Sudagana Prabhavang Namaharshiyaha Ahamadi Devanam Maharshi Nam Tasarvashaha. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages. Close quote. Thus Krishna is the origin of the powers delegated to demigods, great sages, and mystics. Although they are endowed with great powers, these powers are limited, and thus it is very difficult for them to know how Krishna himself appears by his own internal potency in the form of a man. Many philosophers and great rishis, or mystics, try to distinguish the absolute from the relative by their tiny brain power. This can only help them reach the negative conception of the absolute without realizing any positive trace of the absolute. Definition of the absolute by negation is not complete. Such negative definitions lead one to create a concept of one's own. Thus one imagines that the absolute must be formless and without qualities. Such negative qualities are simply the reversals of relative material qualities, and are therefore also relative. By conceiving of the absolute in this way, one can at the utmost reach the impersonal effulgence of God known as Brahman, but one cannot make further progress to Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Such mental speculators do not know that the absolute personality of Godhead is Krishna, that the impersonal Brahman is the glaring effulgence of his transcendental body, or that the Paramatma, the Supersoul, is his all-pervading plenary representation. Nor do they know that Krishna has his eternal form with its transcendental qualities of eternal bliss and knowledge. The dependent demigods and great sages imperfectly consider him to be a powerful demigod, and they consider the Brahman effulgence to be the absolute truth. But the devotees of Krishna, by dint of their surrendering unto him in unalloyed devotion, can know that he is the absolute person and that everything emanates from him. Such devotees continuously render loving service unto Krishna, the fountainhead of everything. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Urmilatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Shri Parampara. So I mentioned this, I think it was in reference to text number 9. Can you look up text number 9 for me? And then let me know what it says on the last line. And what we're referencing here is this word rataha. Rataha is an interesting Sanskrit word that generally means engaged here. But it always seems to have the connotation of so-called engaged. What's the last line of the verse says? Yeah, Yahu vidyayam rataha. So that verse is all about knowledge and ignorance, right? Avidya and vidya. And he's saying there that, similar to this verse, those who cultivate knowledge, ignorance enter into the darkest region, or they enter into darkness. Even more so do those who cultivate so-called knowledge. And that calls to mind, so many verses describe that if someone is doubtful about the existence of God, he's an agnostic. What we call agnostic. I don't know, and most people are in that category. They may not call themselves that, but that's it. And so if they continue being agnostic, not worshiping Krishna, then they're going to suffer. They'll take birth again, and who knows what will happen. But worse still are those who claim to be absolutely certain that there's no God, the atheistic class. You see what I'm saying? The agnostic more or less fit into that class. We're in the 11th canto, we're given the instructions of the Yogendras, and there's one of them describes the different levels of devotees. And the first level is, I forget all the Sanskrit, but he who sees God in everyone and everything in God, and who sees everyone as a devotee of God but himself, and therefore there's no need to preach, because everyone's a devotee. So the second level, Madhyama Adhikari, Ishwareta Dadineshu Bhaliseshu Dvishatsucha Prema Maitri Kripopeksha Yakaroti Samadhyama. The one who sees 4 different categories of entities and deals with them in 4 different ways. In this way, this is in the Madhyama level, below the Kanishta, below the Uttama, but above the Kanishta, which is the lowest. So what is this statement here? Ishware Adineshu, Baliseshu, Dvichashu. There's 4 categories. Ishwar is Krishna, is God. So how do we relate to God? We try to develop love for him. Prema. That's the thing. For the devotees who are seriously practicing along with us, we try to develop friendship, maitri. For those who are Balisheshu, means innocent. They don't know anything. They're agnostic, you see. But they're not out and out enemies of God. They're just ignorant. We try to show mercy by giving them Krishna consciousness. And this is the vast mass of people, and this is probably how we became devotees. We didn't know for sure, but we came in touch with the devotee, was able to plant some faith and interest, and we got, we were fortunate. And then those who are dvishatsu, envious of devotees, envious of God, out and out, fitting into the 16th canto, the 16th chapter of the Gita very nicely, we try to avoid them. So this innocent, that's the large pool of people who are just confused. And they're not specifically very much demonic. They're not enemies of God. But in their ignorance, if they continue in that way, then they're going to suffer results of the karmic reaction. So here this verse is similar to verse 9. Those who worship the demigods. Now this is interesting, because so many people worship the demigods and they're considered pious, because at least they're within the Vedic paradigm, they're performing some sacrifices, observing some rules and regulations. But the problem here, in these short books like we have, the Upadeshamrita, it also has 11 verses. This one has, 18? I think 18 mantras. There's no development of everything is very absolute. There's no wasting time. So he says, asambhutim upasate. Those who worship that something other than Krishna, it could be a demigod, it could be a tree. Today people worship all kinds of things. They go into darkness. But even more so, those who cultivate, who worship something that's not the absolute, and say that they worship they say they're worshiping the absolute, but they're actually worshiping the impersonal absolute, or something less than that. So-called worshippers. Really, it could be so-called worshippers of the absolute. So, do you see why that's a problem? Because then those who worship the demigods, they know they're worshiping the demigods, because we want something material. But those who claim to be giving you, and often they're preaching, the absolute truth, and they really think it's something other than Krishna, they're much more dangerous. And this is directly predicting this ancient literature, Isopanisad. The whole Mayavadi group, Now it's a very interesting phenomenon with the Mayavadis, because the Mayavadis started from Shankaracharya in his Sharika Bhashya. Bhashya means a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. And he gives this impersonal commentary. And it became very widely known and very influential, meaning that the ultimate truth, the absolute truth, is not a person, but is this Brahman effulgence. And that the Saguna Brahman, the Brahman with qualities, is when that's absolute Brahman, impersonal Brahman, is covered by Maya, or a portion of it breaks off and is covered by Maya, and that's us, And so if we, through cultivation of knowledge of Brahman and personal, we're able to transcend the varieties in our personality and all these things and control our senses, we can merge back into the absolute Brahman and become the absolute ourselves, non-different. There's no ultimate difference between ourselves and the absolute truth. This is Mayavad. So this is very dangerous. What happened in India? Now there's a backstory to that, and that is that it was Krishna's desire. There's even a verse, I forget what Purana, where he's ordering Shiva to appear. He doesn't name Shankara, but Shankaracharya, but he says, you appear and you preach this Mayavad philosophy, so people will become atheists against me. This is Krishna speaking. And so it's not Shankara's fault. He was just following orders. But those who follow him go into the darkest realm of ignorance. You see what I'm saying? So what's going on here? Well, the way it's described is that due to the Kali Yuga, the strict following of the Vedas became distorted, as Krishna says in the Gita. He says, "Evam parampara papam imam rajarshi vidu." I'm speaking to you, Arjun, the same thing I spoke back 100 million years ago to the sun god. And what happened, due to the course of time, this yoga as it is, this teaching as it is, has become covered and distorted. It happens, especially when you get to the Kali Yuga. Everything becomes messed up. So now I'm coming to give you the same teaching I gave then, as it is. Why? Because you're not envious of me. You're my friend. You can receive it properly. So Prabhupada explains in the purport there, I'm starting a new sampradaya here. I'm renewing the parampara. Krishna's the start of all the parampara. So by the force of time, especially in Kali Yuga, everything gets messed up, gets distorted. So what happened with the Vedic teachings is that part of the Vedas, as Vedavyasa originally wrote them down, he tries to have a large net. So those who are materialists, let's give them the teachings of the Vedas that will allow them to improve their material position, either on earth or go to heaven, But they'll be performing sacrifices, austerity, so many rules and regulations. And in the course of their mantra chanting, they're all going to be worshiping Vishnu as well. Om is there throughout the Vedas, you know what I mean? So they're going to be chanting Om. So that's in itself auspicious. And in this way, they'll gradually become purified and be eligible for actual bhakti. That was his idea. But I just reading, if you read the 5th chapter, 1st canto, he's dissatisfied with this strategy. He wrote all the Vedas, and he wrote the Vedanta Sutra, he wrote the Puranas, except for Bhagavatam, and Vedanta Sutra, but he was dissatisfied because he had not given the final conclusion, a book that wholly and solely deals with Krishna, the Absolute Truth, his avatars, the devotees, and devotional service. And that's what the Bhagavatam is. So here the Isopanisad is foreseeing the development of those who will worship the so-called Absolute and become very influential and do so much damage to people to their real faith. So what happened was that parts of the Vedas call for animal sacrifice, but it's very controlled. The animal is usually old animal, is given a new body. There's a whole reasoning behind it. Not mass slaughterhouses, absolutely not. So as time went on in Kali Yuga and things became degraded, those who were part of the Vedic culture, more or less, in India, they misused that portion of the Vedas to start having mass cow slaughter. So Buddha appears, Krishna appears as Buddha later on after Krishna disappeared. We're well into Kali Yuga. And he rejects the Vedas wholesale. He has his own teachings based on ahimsa. That's a central tenet of Buddhism. And that became very influential in India. The cows are being saved, but the Vedas were now thrown out. And without reference to the actual Vedic knowledge, then people are, without any hope. So therefore, Krishna sent various great acharyas like Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, and finally he came himself as Lord Chaitanya to combat this Mayavad philosophy. And you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, I know the history of the publication. The first chapter that came out, Prabhupada was so eager to get this chapter out, was chapter 7 of the Adi Lila. Because there, Lord Chaitanya is meeting with Prakashananda Saraswati and his thousands of disciples in Benares, and converting them all to Vaishnavism. They were very powerful preachers of Mayavad. They criticized him because what is all this? There were no Vaishnav sannyasis at that time. If you wanted to take renunciation, you took what we call Babaji. You put on the white coat, you went to Vrindavan, basically. They didn't travel and preach as sannyasis. So Lord Chaitanya, if you wanted to take sannyas and travel and preach, he had to take from the Mayavad side. So actually, Keshava Bharati was externally a Mayavadi, but Lord Chaitanya, this whole thing, he initiated him anyway. But he's supposedly a Mayavadi, and so there he's in Benares, the center of all the Mayavadis, and he's dancing and chanting and having these huge kirtans. So from the outside, who is this sentimental sannyasi? He's supposed to be studying Vedanta Sutra with us, and there he is dancing in the street. So they were criticizing him. So Lord Chaitanya's devotees were saying, we can't stand it anymore. We're hearing this blasphemy of you. Please do something. So Lord Chaitanya was carefully avoiding the Mayavadi sannyasis. They're all over the place, in Benares. But he would just stay with his devotees, Chandrasekhar, Tapan Mishra, and he would take lunch there, So one Brahmin comes and invites him. They had come before and invited him to meet with the Mayavadis, and he refused. But because his devotees were in such pain, he said, okay, I'm going to meet them and convert them. It's a whole wonderful pastime. And there's all these incredible purports, mostly quoted from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who wrote a tremendous commentary of his own on the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, I'm sorry? Adi? 7. Adi Lila Kipsa. So anyway, Lord Chaitanya, through argument and through his personality, his effulgence, he's shown his effulgence, and they're really impressed by that. They said, "Oh, Narayan, Om Namo Narayan." And he actually is Narayan, and so they're offering obeisance as Narayan, so they're getting all this credit. Eventually, he explained Vedanta Sutra to them from the devotional point of view, and they were all converted. It was a huge thing. So here, back to our verse here. Those who are worshippers of the impersonal Absolute are more dangerous. They enter even more into darkness. Now, Prabhupada in his purport He makes it distinguish what is asambhuti and sambhuti. Sambhuti is the absolute personality of Godhead. So here it says sambhutyam rata. They're engaged in worshiping sambhuti. What's wrong with that? That's where this word rata comes in, as so-called. You see? We find it in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna's in the 2nd chapter, he talks about yamimam pushpitam vacham, those who are enamored of the flowery words of the Vedas that describe going to the heavenly planets. That's pushpitam vacham. Pushpitam is flower. Flowery word. Pushpitam vacham prabhadanta vipashtataha. They're not very intelligent. They don't really know. Avipasht. Vedavara rata. See, there's the word again. Vedavara rata. Vedavara means speaking the Vedas, knowing the Vedas, but rata, so-called knowers of the Vedas, you see? They say there's nothing more than this. This is the essence of the Vedas, you know? And then they practice that, hoping to go to the heavenly planets, you know? And Krishna's, in our evening class tonight, we're practically on those very verses where Krishna directly criticizes this worship of the demigods. Now there he doesn't say they go to the darkest region of ignorance, you know, but more or less they don't make any progress. He says, try vidya mam samapapatapashma. Yagyayistra swagatim patayanti. Te punyamasadya. He says they're punya, they're pious. Te punyamasada sudendalokam ashnanti divyan divideva bhogan. Sounds good so far. He says those who worship me indirectly through the 3 Vedas, the Vedas that deal with the karma kanda. Somapa, they drink the soma juice. And they worship me with the aim of going to the heavenly planets. You know, in other words, part of their worship is Vishnu, but they're really worshiping Indra, and they're mixing everything up. So suppose they get up there. Asadya surendra lokam. They reach up to Indra loka. Ashnanti divyan divideva bhogan. They enjoy godly delights. Divideva bhogan. Tetam bhuktva svargalokam vishalam. Still sounds good. So Svargaloka, in Svargaloka, that's heavenly planets, they enjoy vishalam, great kinds of sense gratification, you know. But then, chine punya marja lokam vishanti. After their punya is used up, because you kind of get credits, all these sacrifices, charity, all these things, you get credit. So now you cash it in when you die and you go to the heavenly planet. But then it gets used up because it's material. It's not bhakti credits. Chine punye martya lokam vishandi. He doesn't say you come back to earth. He says you come back to the world of death. Martya, mortal. You can see how the relation between the languages. Mortuary. Anyway. Martya lokam vishandi. Evam tuhi dhamma anupapannam gadagatam kamakana. Thus following those Vedas, the karmakanda section of the Vedas, you just go and come. You don't make any progress. And then you're back to square one. You're back on earth. So that's what you can expand from here. They enter into darkness, the worshippers of the demigods, meaning that they don't really get any light of real knowledge and they don't progress toward bhakti. But those who are pretending to worship the absolute, but actually worshiping something else, the impersonal, they get into even more darkness. So just to finish this story of how Shankaracharya isn't to blame. So what happened was that Buddhism became very prominent in India, and the Vedas were becoming de-emphasized. So this is disastrous, even though the cows were being saved, that's good. So they had to come back. So you had these acharyas, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, and finally Lord Chaitanya, and others, this modern day, Prabhupada is also one of them, who are saying, no, the ultimate Vedanta is bhakti. Notice the relation between Prabhupada's name, Bhakti Vedanta. That the ultimate knowledge is not this impersonal, which is what Shankaracharya taught, but rather the personal understanding. And we have, now, Lord Chaitanya didn't write or have his immediate disciples write, such as Rupa Goswami, Sanatana, a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, which is usually kind of a prerequisite to have a bona fide sampradaya. That's why you have, Madhvacharya, Ramanuja wrote one, and Nibarka. They wrote or had their disciples write, commentaries. They all have their commentaries on, bhakti commentaries on Vedanta. But Lord Chaitanya said, look, this Bhagavatam is the natural commentary. It was written by the same author. And even in some verses, I think at the end of each chapter, in some editions, it says, oh, this is Brahma Sutra Bhasa. This is the commentary on Brahma Sutra, which is the same as Vedanta Sutra. So even you can see, what's the first the sutra, Atato Brahma Jigyasa, that one should, now being a human being, one should inquire into Brahman. It doesn't say what that Brahman is, whether it's impersonal or personal, but it says into the absolute truth at least. Not just mess around in its world. That's animal life. Okay, so then what is it? Janmadhyasya yataha. Very, terse definition. That's what sutras are. That from which or from whom everything has come, who is maintaining everything, and into whom everything will merge at the end. That's the expanded understanding of Janmadhyasya yataha. So what's the first words of the Bhagavatam? First canto, first verse, first chapter, first verse, Janmadhyasya. But it goes on, Janmadhyasya yaton vayada tatatascharte shabhigyasvara. Actually starts with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudeva is Krishna. Who is that person from whom everything came? And then it describes his energies, now he knows everything and everything. So the Bhagavatam is the natural commentary, but after Lord Chaitanya's disappearance, and in Jaipur, which is a very important city, that's where Rupa Goswami... Did you visit there when you were in India? I've never been there either. But, there's a whole history. The six Goswamis, they built these temples in India, in Vrindavan. And one of the most famous was the Radha Govinda temple that Rupa Goswami built. But then when the Muslims took over, especially Aurangzeb, he was breaking the temples and the deities were in danger. So Radha Govinda were taken to Jaipur. Now Jaipur means the city of victory. It's like surrounded in three places with the big mountains, So it's very hard to conquer that place. It was never conquered by the Muslims. So a lot of the deities ended up there. And Radha Govinda is very famous. They have a temple, beautiful temple, these same Radha Govinda deities that Rupa Goswami worshipped. And the whole city goes there every morning for Mangalarti. It's very, I'd like to see it sometime. Anyway, so, where was I going with that? So anyway, so what happened was in Jaipur, the priests there, the respectable priests, they were critical of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And I think there was a thing with the deities where we wanted to have Radha Krishna, but they were protesting that because they're not married, It's not like Lakshmi Narayan, there's the whole thing. They didn't understand the superior nature of the conjugal ras, and especially the parakiya ras, which is what Radha Krishna worship is all about. Anyway, there was these two criticisms. You're not a real sampradaya, you don't have the Vedanta Sutra commentary, and the deities are not being properly worshipped. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who was the main acharya at that time, he wanted to debate that, and defeat that, but he was old and he wasn't well enough. So he sent his learned disciple, Baladev Vidyabhushan, whose name we should know from Bhagavad Gita. The book is dedicated to him, if you look in the beginning. And it's his commentary that Prabhupada used primarily for writing his purports. Very learned. That's what Vidyabhushan means. He has the ornament of knowledge, you see. That's very pertinent to this, because this is all about Vidya, right? Andam, tamak, is ignorance. So he went there in his place. And he prayed to the deity, to Govinda, to give him the inspiration to write the commentary on Vedanta Sutra. So I think there was a thing with the garlands coming down, as it often does. And also he felt he had the tremendous blessing of Govinda, so much so that Govinda was writing it. He was just, physically writing it, but Govinda was telling him all the words to write. So therefore it's called Govinda Bhashya. So that became the Gaudiya Vaishnava, commentary on Vedanta Sutra, and of course it all brings it all back to Krishna. We have all this if you're interested. So this is this impersonal or personal is a big subject matter that Srila Prabhupada often deals with in his commentaries and his purports here. So let's run through exactly. So Namevidu Sudagana. So Krishna is is the origin. You see, it's in Bhagavad, beginning of 10th chapter, that aham adi devanam, that I am the origin of all the demigods. And he explains this in the 9th chapter also. Whatever they can give you, it's coming from me. So when you're worshiping them directly and forgetting about me, then that's improper worship of me. And what you get is return to birth and death, basically. Because you're staying materially attached. The whole idea is that those attachments to this world, whether it's going to the heavenly planet or merging into Brahman or getting a yogic city or just whatever, prospering on earth, have to be turned to Krishna. It's a reformation of the heart. And that's not going to happen if you think, I'm God. You know? If I think, I'm the absolute, I'm Brahman. So Prabhupada first of all says, I'm the origin of all the demigods. So he's origin of all the powers delegated to the great sages and mystics. So there's no point in worshipping them directly. So many philosophers and great rishis, they try to distinguish the absolute from the relative by their tiny brain power. So this is a constant theme, is that the only way to know the absolute truth is by the absolute truth revealing himself to you. That's why Krishna says, Prabhupada would quote it 100 times, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyas-chasmi tattvataha. Only those who practice bhakti to me can know me in truth, because they get progressive revelation from me according to the depth and the sincerity of their devotion. Otherwise, whatever you think is absolute is going to be an illusion. You may be completely convinced, but it's not true. And this is the main disease of every living entity whose condition. We're taking something to be fact and truthful that isn't. First of all, that I'm the body. That's the main, right? And therefore, the pleasures of the body are good, and that's what I should strive for. Now, it may not sometimes be the physical body, it can be the mental body, emotional body, all these things that aren't us, that are still disimposed on us. So, bhakti is sarvopadi vinimuktam tatpadatmena nirmalam. These are all upadis. These are designations that we place on ourselves. They become assumptions, axiomatic. That things that we work, that we believe. I am, German. I know I'm German. My parents taught me I'm German. I speak German accent. I was born here, and and that's it. And so I think there's so many things that implies, and then the next birth you're not German at all. You may not even be a human being, and so the whole thing has changed. So that's why 11th canto, especially the Uddhava Gita, you'll see so many verses deal with this. It's a big dream. You're putting your faith in something that's just like a sky flower. It's not there. This is the big mistake that Maya is tricking us with. And the last snare of Maya, Prabhupada would always call it, I think he got that from Bhakti Siddhanta, is to think that, yes, I'm Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi. This is one of the first things you learn, right? You're not that body, you're pure spirit. Aham Brahmasmi, and the absolute truth is Brahman. Therefore, I am Brahman. I am, you see, identifying. Rather than understanding, no. Mamai Vangsha Jiva Loka Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Prabhupada quote this, that Mamai Vangsha Jiva Loka, the living entities in this world are my anksha, my part and parcel, eternally. Yes, we're one in one sense. This is the Chincha Beta Beta. Lord Chaitanya's revolutionary reconciliation of all the other philosophies. That you're not absolutely different from God, but you're definitely not completely one with God. That's the whole idea. With this word of anksha, it's like a drop of water from the ocean out there. You analyze it, it's got all the chemicals, but it's minute. You cannot equate the drop with the ocean, but there is a oneness in composition and quality. So, being situated in our proper position as eternal servants of Krishna and taking pleasure in his pleasure, this is what love means. Love means that you're just concerned about the welfare and the pleasure of the beloved. That's what absolute love means, and it's most clearly demonstrated in this world in the mother's love for a child. There's no reciprocation. Just if the child is happy and healthy, that's it. Complete concern. That kind of feeling toward Krishna is pure love. And because, now this is the very important thing, because we're part of Krishna, then when we engage our activities in giving him pleasure, we also become pleased. We're part of him, don't forget. It's just like the hand. If the belly is pleased, the body is healthy, the hand is also healthy doing its thing. You know? But if we try to do our own thing, the hand does its own thing, then it becomes useless. So that's the difference. And that's why love in this world is ultimately doomed, because we're not part and parcel of that person. You know? We try to take, you know, it's there, but ultimately the relationship is broken. It has to break just by the force of time. You know? And so it's a tragedy that all of our acharyas are trying to remedy by giving us actual knowledge. And that's what this, you know, all the books of Srila Prabhupada. The mental speculators, and this is the real danger. You know, just like in every sphere, you see those who are purveyors of ignorance, or purveyors of untruth, they're the most dangerous, because they lead people down the wrong direction. This is why there's so much anxiety out there. You don't know what actually is going on. You know? You turn on this news, it says this, turn this news, it says that. Your teachers teach you in this way, then they find out it's not true. Everybody's out to exploit everybody else. You know? Where do I go for actual truth? Where do I go to find people who know the truth, the beneficial truth, and are willing to share it with me out of, you know, without trying to exploit me? For that you have to come to our little Hare Krishna movement here. Prabhupada had absolutely no personal, you know, motivation for struggling so hard and give us the Hare Krishna mantra and all of his books and all of his teachings. There's not a tinge of selfish desire there. You can see, because, you know, he went through so much suffering, so much austerity in order to do it. But because he was completely situated in, you know, his relation with Krishna, he was at the highest levels of bliss and happiness. Who could possibly be more beloved of Krishna than someone who's sacrificing so much to give Krishna to others so that we can revive our original relationship with Krishna and be happy? This is Krishna's most deep felt desire, is that others will be saved. He has no selfish reason for coming here. He's doing it for us. Yadaya dahi dharmasya, to protect the devotees, to show my pastimes so people will be attracted. He's perfectly happy just in Goloka. He's there. So you know, when you read Prabhupada's books with that in mind, and you realize he's telling us all this with an urgency, that please, you know, take the knowledge in your heart and act on it, and you'll be successful in life. And that's what's going on in this Isopanisad. Hare Krishna. Any comments or questions? Internet? No? Okay. Actually, they're arranging so they're going to be able to ask corrections. To, like, you know, like I'll have a little monitor here, and they can send. Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, say it in the mic. Go ahead.
Do you think that people in African cultures and like Egyptian cultures that worship all their various different gods, are they essentially worshiping the same demigods, but in their own names?
Yeah. Like you go, the Greek god, Zeus, pretty close to Indra, right? Charge of the rain, charge of the, you know, often gets out of line a little bit, you know, gets over. Yeah, there are analogs of so much of the Vedic culture. Now we go around the mulberry tree. Now we go around the mulberry. Tulsi is a species of mulberry. They're in the same genus or something. Yeah, look it up. Yeah. I think that came from England. Yeah. Now maybe that came from India because they ruled in India for so long. You know, so many things you find like that. Language. Like I was just giving the example of, what was it? God, but there's so many, like tumalo. Tumalo means tumultuous. That's a Sanskrit word, you know. Nama, name. I mean, obviously, you know what I mean? So, I'm sorry? Marcha, Loka. Obviously coming from, you know, the Sanskrit and then through the Greek or the Latin or whatever, you know. Into mortal, mortuary, whatever. Yeah, and Here's one that's really interesting. I remember the word nectar, right? Now, nectar is meant to bring immortality. It's coming from the word amrita. Amrita is coming from like marcha. It's to say amrita means no death. So you drink real nectar and you become deathless. Now, there's a nectar in the heavenly planets. It can't really make you deathless, but it gives you the impression that you're deathless, and maybe it increases your longevity, whatever. So now the word nectar, tara, tarine, paschacha desha tarine. Tarine means to deliver, right? Deliver us from impersonalism and voidism. So the word tara and the different varieties in Sanskrit mean to deliver. Nek is a Greek prefix that has to do with death. Necromancy, necrophiliac, nectar, right? It's Greek for death. The English word nectar is coming from nectar, to deliver from death. Right? Tara, tarine. Cool, huh? I thought that was so cool when I learned it. There's so much you can learn from, the Sanskrit language. It's very rich. It's a rich mine. And like, I'll give you one example, because we should end with something sweet, and it's been kind of heavy. Certain sounds in Sanskrit are meant to awaken certain emotions. They have an effect. The double L is for a double L is like conjugal. There are certain verses. They just listen for the L. You hear the L's? That's a verse about Krishna beginning the rasa dance and being enlivened, with all the gopis. But the ND sound, as in Ananda and Nandanandana, that's meant to awaken Ananda. So some verses just emphasize that. You can listen. I'll give you two examples. Is it okay? Okay. So from Rupa Goswami in his Vidagdha Madhava, this is a play. He wrote two wonderful plays. Vidagdha Madhava is centered in Vrindavan, and Lalita Madhava is centered in Dwarka. But if you leave Lalita Madhava, it goes back to Vrindavan, because it's Krishna longing to be in Vrindavan and all kinds of stuff. They have a new Vrindavan they build because Krishna's longing for the gopi. We read about how the gopis and all the residents of Vrindavan, you read the Krishna book, what a nectar of devotion. The separation is so painful, and they're all just meditating on Krishna, wandering around, going to the places of his past. So they're always, and what is Krishna doing? They're saying he's just enjoying with all the queens now. He's forgotten all about us, but he hasn't. According to Lita Madhava, he's waking up in the middle of the night. He wants to go back to Vrindavan, but he can't because. So they build him a new Vrindavan with statues, of Yashoda and the cows and all the gopis and the cowherd boys, in Dwarka. And, in his trance of separation, he's trying to speak to Mother Yashoda. He's wondering why she's not answering him and all this stuff, So anyway, the ND sound is meant to bring this ananda. So here's two verses. Krishna's going into the forest, and he's describing Vrindavan. The different elements of it and how it's giving him ananda. So listen for the ending. Sugandhao makanda pakadamakadandasya madure vinisyande bandi kutamadapa vrindam mahudidam kutando lan mando natabinanhalais chandanagade mamanandam vrinda vipanamatulam tundalayati. Every line has about 3 of those. So what does it mean? He says, Sugandhao, very fragrant nectar is trickling from the newly grown mango buds, and it's attracting swarms of bumblebees, of honeybees, who are singing. They've become vandis. It turns them into vandis. Vandi is a word in English, is an English word that means, which you probably don't know, panegyrist, is a professional praisers. In other words, the king, he'll have these people come and they know all kinds of poems, they write them, and when he wakes up, he doesn't have an alarm clock, but they wake him with songs of his glories. This is a panegyrist. So it's a vandi. So it turns the bees into vandis, and they're chanting and singing all kinds of praises of Krishna. The sweetness of it. Madhure vinisyande is trickling. Vinisyande vandi kritamotopavrindam mohodidam. Again and again they're singing. And Kutandolan, the little breeze is coming down from the very fragrant Malaya hills, which are full of chandan trees, sandalwood. Kutandolan. And it's moving, swaying, the branches are swaying, and there's fragrant breeze coming with all the sandalwood. Kutandolan, Mando, not a bit, Anilais, Chandanagade, Mamanandam Vrinda Vipandamatudam Tundalaiti. Thus this Vrindavan forest is increasing my bliss more and more. It's right there in the Anjalila, Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's on your phone. Just look up the database. Okay, one more, and I'll let you go. This is in the Pajabali, and it's full of names. It's just addressing Krishna by different names. And Bandi Deshikanda Mandada Badashikanda Liptanga Hey Vrindaranya Podandada Spodada Mandandi Vadashamala Kalindi Priyananda Nanda Padananda Vindikshana Shri Govinda Mukunda Sundatadano Mam Dinam Anandaya. So he's saying that Bandi Resha, oh Krishna, you are who are the Lord of the Bandira forest. There's a Bandira tree, which is a special tree. Shikanda Mandana, decorated with a beautiful peacock plume. Varashikanda, and anointed with the best of sandalwood paste. Varashikanda Liptangahi. You who are the prince of Vrindavan, Vrindara Purandara, Spododamundandivara, and you have the complexion of a freshly grown Indivara lotus, a nice bluish lotus. Shamala, blackish bluish. Kalindi, very, very fond of the Kalindi, the Yamuna river. Priya Nanda Nandana, the beloved son of Nanda. Parananda, the personification of supreme bliss. Aravindekshana, lotus-eyed one. Govinda, Mukunda, Sund, O you of the beautiful form, Sundararo. Mam Dinam, Anandaya, please bliss out this wretched worshipper of yours who is so fallen. Did you have a question? You just wanted me to...
I was just going to say that I was thinking that maybe you should teach Bobby and Lauren that shloka.
Which one?
The one you just chanted, yeah.
It's possible.
You two could learn that, right?
We had more time. I taught him some slokas when he was a bhakta. He still knows them. Oh, just do the one. Nitam. We'll do it together. And then he'll do the English. Nitam navanava nitam ke nitapitam payakwame monodi. It is samadhi rotantambu mau balam tamame go balam. Say the translation in the mic, in the English.
Who stole my butter? Who drank my milk? And where can my flute be found? I bow to the cowherd child who shouts these words as he rolls on the ground.
Krishna's throwing a tantrum. Where's my milk? Where's my flute? He goes on. Bilva Mangal Dakar. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. This is how we fall in love with Krishna. That's it.